Hello everyone and welcome to part 11 of my Learn Ethical Hacking. So in this part we're going to create a backdoor. Now backdoor is essentially an evil program that when the person runs it on their computer it will give you access, hence the name backdoor, and this access will allow you to control their computer. You can upload things, you can execute, you basically have full control of their computer. Now there's a lot more to that. It seems very simple, but there's a lot more that goes on to actually achieve that. But in this video we're just going to generate the actual .exe or the application that will allow this connection between you and a victim computer. To actually create the backdoor in Kali Linux we need a few things. So to download this, all the codes or commands I should say are in the description, so you can copy it line by line if you want, and to save you typing all this out. It's line by line, so don't copy and paste all of it in one go. You just need to open the terminal and get the first line, and this first line is installing git. So it's apt get, so hyphen between apt and get, then space -y install git, and this will install git so you can clone repositories, you can upload to git, etc. Once you click enter, I'm not going to click enter because I've already installed it, and like I said in this previous video, and in case you're confused why I'm saying that, is because this is a re-upload. So if you've already watched this video, then, or you've already watched the original within the 24 hours it was uploaded, I've decided to make this video again and re-upload it. The previous or the original video is no longer available, so if you're only just on part 11 then this video will be good for you. If you've already watched part 11 then you can still watch this. There's a little bit more information that I wanted to actually get into this video than I did in the original. Anyway, once you click enter, this installation should only take a few seconds. It did for me. And once it's complete, you can actually clone the repository. And this repository is this one here. This GitHub repository includes Veil. And Veil is what we're going to be using to actually create the backdoor. Veil is just a Python script that allows you to create backdoors using payloads, etc. You type that in like I have, copy and paste it. Once you click enter, it should start cloning it, and cloning is essentially just copying it from like the GitHub website to your local drive. So if I go to places and click home, then I go to, in fact it's straight in the home, so it's here, and it should be a Veil folder for you in your home place. If I double click on this, it's got all the files from the repository. Next, what we need to do is we need to actually go to this directory, but in the terminal, because we need to run the setup folder. So if we just get rid of all that now, if we type cd veil, click enter, as you can see the terminal will automatically go inside of this directory. So if we type ls, as you can see this corresponds to the file manager. Everything that's named here is essentially inside here, inside this folder. So now we know we're in the correct directory. Then we need to go inside the setup folder. So to do so, you type cd and then setup, click enter, and now we're inside the setup folder, which is this one here. So essentially we're inside this. Now to actually run the setup, and this setup is an installation of Veil. There are 3 installation wizards. These installation wizards are all interpreters, so you'll install Wine, you'll install Python and Ruby. It's all required for you to actually run Veil, because there's loads of different payloads within this Veil, which you'll see later on in this video. So we're inside setup. Now what you want to do is you want to type sudo /setup.sh. Like I said, all of this will be in the description. So inside this leaf pad here, this will be in the description, so you can just copy it line by line. Once you've done sudo /setup.sh, then you can do space -c. Once you click enter, it'll start the installation process, and this is the long installation process. So give it 5 or 10 minutes. You will need to watch the installation though, because the installation wizards will pop up and they require you to click next. Tick boxes, don't worry about, just don't tick any additional boxes that appear in the installation wizards. Just keep clicking next on all of them. Then it should take you to near the end of the installation. If errors do appear within the terminal, ignore them because it still works. So don't worry about any errors that actually show up within the terminal. If you're stuck with this installation process or something unexpected does happen, then just leave it in the comments and I'll be happy to help. But you should be fine. Once you go through the installation process, they will appear like an actual installation wizard. So the whole screen will go blue, I think, and then there'll be like a little grey box that says click next, and then it'll just do the installation with the loading bar. So once that's done, you've installed it correctly, you've got Veil now, and all we need to do is actually execute the Veil script. And to do so, we need to run this veil.py. So I'm going to go back into the Veil folder. I'm going to do type clear, sorry. So it clears the terminal. Now we've got a fresh terminal. To run this py file, we need to do /veil.py. Veil.py. Click enter, and then it opens Veil. So now, as you can see here, it says Veil version 3.1.4, and we've got main menu. It says here 2 tools loaded, and we've got available commands. We've got exit, info, list, and update and use. We need to list the available tools. So you type list. These are 2 different tools, so evasion and ordnance. We want to use we want to use evasion. So type use 1. Click enter. Don't just type 1, you've got to type use 1 because this is a command. Now we're using Veil. So as you can see up here, it says Veil evasion menu. We've got 41 payloads loaded, and then we've got additional commands, so which I'll talk through later on. We need to type list again because we want information on a specific payload we want to use. So type list, and these are the 41 payloads. We're interested in 9 or 10. It doesn't really matter which one you use here. The purposes of this course, I'm going to be using 9. I'm going to use reverse. In fact, no, I'll use HTTPS. It's just there's not much difference between them. It's just that HTTPS, I don't know what it is. It's just preference. So I'm going to use 10. The corresponding number is what the command we need to use. So the HTTPS one is 10. So if we go down here again, just scroll down and type use 10. Then we're using CS interpreter reverse HTTPS because that's the one we selected. We're using 10. Then you can see additional required options. We've got compile to .exe and the value is Y. We want it to compile to an executable because when you send that to a Windows machine, then it will run because it's like an application. It's just a .exe. And throughout this course, I will be talking to you about binding it to like JPEGs, making it. In fact, Veil evasion does make it undetectable by antiviruses, and there's important information that I've got to let you know at the end of this video. So stick around for that because it's very, very important that you listen. But the most important part of this, not to make the video extremely long, is lhost and lport and sleep. They're the 3 main common ones. There's also processors, but as you can see here, these are optional, so they're not actually required. The main 2 of these two for it to actually work. So we need to set the lhost, and what the lhost is your IP address of the Kali machine in this case. So it's the IP address of that, and to find that, all you need to do is you need to open a new terminal. I'm going to split this horizontally. Now, you may be wondering what terminal I'm using here because it might look a little bit different with this red line. I'm using Terminator. So if you go to Google, you can search how to install Terminator in Kali Linux. You can install it. It's not required. It just has additional features. It's exactly the same as the terminal. So I'm going to clear this and then type ifconfig. This ifconfig will bring up all the connections, like the Wi-Fi connections or wire connections. I'm using ETH0. So to find the IP, it's inet, which is this. So this is the IP address of my Kali machine. So I'm just going to copy this and then type set lhost and then paste the IP address. Click enter. That sets the lhost of the backdoor. Because we're using reverse, it needs to know where to go back to, if that makes sense. So when you send this application somewhere, it's going to have to listen for a connection or your computer is going to listen for a connection from someone else's computer. So it needs to know where to send the connection back, if that makes sense, from the victim's computer to yours. Your computer is going to be listening for a connection, and then their computer, the victim one, is going to send it's going to have to know where to send the connection back to, which is your computer, which is also listening for a connection, if that makes sense. So that's why you set the IP address of the L host to your IP address. We've got the L port. You can change this if you want to. By default, Veil has it at 8081. You can have 8080. The reverse HTTP uses the 8080 as well. You can use 80. You can use 4444, so 4 fours. I think there's other ports as well that are good to use, but I recommend 80, 80, 80, or 80, 81. So you can leave this as default. The L host has been set. As you can see up here, it's blank. Don't worry about that. It doesn't automatically refresh, but it's definitely been set because there's no errors. We can add some processes if you want to make it look like an application that's actually running. So it uses, processes. Sleep. You can make it sleep for a certain amount of time before the payload is executed on their computer. You send your backdoor to someone, and they double click on this dodgy application. Then it will sleep for 5 seconds before it actually executes the bad code, if that makes sense. It's like a bomb, for example. So yeah, you could set that to 10 seconds. It doesn't really matter. It's optional. I'm not going to set it to anything. So as soon as they double click on it, it will access the connection, or it will open the connection, and then you'll have access to their computer. You can leave everything else. You don't have to mess with anything else. So that's it. We've set the L host. We haven't set any of the optional ones because it's not really required, hence why it's optional. So lastly, all we need to do is actually generate. So you type generate because we want to generate it, which is this one here, to generate the payload. You type enter or press enter. Then we need a name for the payload, so I'm going to type backdoor. Now, in the original upload of this, I called it backdoor.exe, and then when it created it, it created backdoor.exe.exe, and it looked a bit retarded, so just type backdoor. Do not add the .exe extension to this. So I'm just going to click enter, and it's not a good idea to call it backdoor because people will not open it, but that will be talked about later on in the course. But there are ways of defending against this, which is quite simple, really. So we've executed it, and we've created a payload that's in an executable form. As you can see here, this is the most important line. So to actually see this in its real form inside the file manager, go down to this second terminal. I'm just going to type clear to get rid of all that. We can do a command that will open the directory. So you type xdg -open. I'll just zoom in so you can see this. So it's xdg -open, and then we can copy the executable line, which is this one because we want to locate the executable, up to the compiled, because we don't actually open the backdoor.exe because it's just pointless. If you send this to someone right now and they double click on it, nothing will happen because we need to listen for the connection, and that will be in part 12. This is only generating it. So we do xdg open and then click enter. It will open the file manager straight to this directory, and as you can see here is the backdoor, literally called backdoor.exe. So this backdoor is our weapon essentially, and that's it. So you just generated your backdoor. It's working fine. We're using the right ports. We know how to generate one now, and this is with Veil 3, so it's not with the old version. All the things will be in the description as always. If this video did help, please leave a like, comments. If you're stuck with anything, I'll be happy to help. Subscribe for future content, and I will see you in the next video.